Snezhka, thank you for this invitation and opportunity. This is the first time I prepare this speech. I usually tend to go on the go, but I think this is an important occasion and we need to make good use of the time. Cultural heritage was an intermezzo to my youth. 8 years ago, at 23 years of age, I was privileged to take on the revival of the oldest public cinema in Kosovo, which was opened 5 days before the Queen's coronation 70 years ago. I had to take on the task to follow up on the demands that 8,000 citizens and 58 non-profits put together when they stopped its privatization and made it a heritage site due to its importance to the local collective memory. After giving a chance to institutions in 2007, in absence of committed ones, citizens had to fulfill these goals. It was not heritage for its own sake, but as a tool to save a building from demolition, bringing people around something that unites, something greater than them, something they can't do on their own. To create the space and conditions to understand the city and its multi-layered histories, to get to know its many pasts and challenge ourselves with learning and unlearning, to understand the 20th century in our own context and imagine a different 21st century. With all the new tools it provides, it has been a story of survival, repair, healing, communicating, learning, feeling, and getting back at it. An archaeological and developmental journey. We are really grateful for the recognition with such an award and for the opportunity to make this address. My first memories are those of anxiety of war, the minute-long silences for the dead when I was in the first grade, news coming from villages and the streets, from Brussels and Washington, and eventually from the sky in form of bombs. My nightmares had Apache helicopters, war criminals, and my city burning. Having survived, I never thought of myself as traumatized or thought of my traumas as modest compared to those who lost their dearest, lost all of their houses, photographs, and memories, lost their dignity, were forced out and expelled, displaced from their city and from the hope of some sort of normalcy. Growing up, I've been suspicious of the nation-state. Intact at my home in Prizren between 1991 and 2008, I have been a citizen of Yugoslavia, Serbia, a UN-administered protectorate, and the youngest country in Europe, Kosovo, as my collection of respective passports shows. As I wonder what the future of passports and nation-states will be, I want to extend my gratitude to the Czech Embassy in Skopje for the 6-month visa that allowed me to revisit the Schengen Europe after 3 years and be here with you. As a student in Istanbul, back then a European capital of culture, I was enchanted with Prague and Mittel Europa through the words of Kundera, Kafka, Hašek, Musil, old man, I'm sorry, and many others that built my imagination of this place. So I'm always full of emotions being in this wonderful city. With high hopes on the Czech presidency, I hope this is actually the last time I will need a visa to enter the EU and be equal to all the citizens of the rest of the continent. But I like cities better than nations. They are much more open to the possibility of democracy. Also in my context, place of a national identity and through complexity of the personal and family identities and heritages, identifying with the city was always easier and much more fun. My hometown, built over 2,000 years ago next to the Lumbardhi River, is the historic capital of Kosovo. It has a great place in the hearts, minds, and histories of Albanians, Serbs, and Turks. It goes back 2,000 years, even before these identities existed, with former Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and Ragusan embassies, Orthodox, Catholic, and Muslim sites of heritage, even the seat of the Jewish community in Kosovo. Home to one of the most world-renowned documentary film festivals, and a new generation building a new heritage on top of the multilingualism that is in its constitution. Prizren is one of the most European cities I've seen and been in, and I've been in many European cities. And being part Albanian, part Bosnian, and part Turkish, culturally Muslim, a Kosovan, I can still feel and be European in my own way, beyond the enlargement policy or the visa regime, and all the injustices and contradictions. One of the guiding ideals of our process was that of the ideal of the idiorhythmy, as Roland Barthes proposes, kind of a common rhythm that allows the individual rhythms of the particles to have a rhythm of their own. It is an idea worth exploring and listening to the small and the big members of the family, the weak and the young, the marginalized and the disadvantaged, the poor and the one in need, and of course the elders, and perhaps attain a different, fresher, and more appropriate understanding of our times and taking a different bet on the future. Let's allow ourselves, as heritage people, to think of the European Union and its communities as an intangible heritage, and perhaps use the contemporary tools of evaluating heritage, democratizing heritage, safeguarding, developing and adapting heritage into rethinking Europe and our relation with it in the decades to come. Let's use heritage and its forums and agoras as spaces to go beyond the obvious, where citizens and professionals show other models and show the way to those that have the task to lead our ways. Commissioners, ministers, mayors, they come and go. Citizens, friendships, ideas, deeds, and cultures are those which remain and allow continuity, allow us to be who we are. With the weight of the generations and the state we are in our shoulders, it is hard to feel young, but it is possible to feel fresh, ready to pull a bigger, longer fight, to not only stop a war, but stop a planet from destruction and build the muscles and the skills that will help us survive in all the crises that are coming. We need to be much stronger. There is knowledge and resources even in places we can't imagine. Learning from the past, putting ourselves in question, thinking and doing things really differently for a change might be worth the bet of this and the coming generation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ares.